Alright, hey guys, this is Adrian from PDC coming at you with another video. Today we're going to be doing something really cool. I'm here with a lot of my friends, a lot of the competitive players that I've been, cooking up a storm with here in the Bay Area. We're going to do a OP05 Awakening of the New Era tier list. So before we get started on this video, I'd love to introduce everyone. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that, every player here is a stronger player than I am. A lot of them have achieved, really great things, a lot of results, and a lot of, really great prizes. So I'd love to introduce everyone. So yeah, let's just get started. Chewy, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Andres Rivera. They call me Chewy among my close friend groups, and some of my best accolades have been 4th and 8th with Kinemon in 500 and 1K tournaments, and then recently 2nd with Kid at 1.5K regional, probably the biggest one yet. Yeah, I miss green though. That's my copy.
Yeah, Chewy's definitely the green machine. All right, next up, Jeff.
Hey guys, I'm Jeff. I got 15th at 1K regionals, and I also lost to Adrian on the bubble, so
No.
pretty good too.
Jeff is he has a Zoro Luffy. He also graciously
No,
he doesn't.
graciously let me get top 32 with INVAKOV. So thank you so much, Jeff. You put my name out there.
You're too kind. You're too kind.
All right, Steven.
So I'm Steven. I top 16 in the 1500 person regional, as well as I was Adrian's teammate in the 3v3 cup. So those are my accolades.
Where we placed 4th out of 144 teams, and amongst probably one of the strongest competition that One Piece tournaments have ever seen. But
and beat my team in the final round as well.
We also team killed the final
Thanks
round.
for the win, boys.
All right,
Don't
Supra.
remember that one. It's kind of free.
All right, Supra.
Yo, guys, Super here. So my accolades, I got 35th in the online regional. I think 9th in the online regional, and top 8. So I do have 1 Serial Luffy, and of course, 4th place with the 3v3 team with Steven and Adrian. So yeah, not too shabby, I guess.
Yeah. So if you guys are wondering, this is a group that I've been really practicing hard with, improving a lot, and this is a group that we're all going to nationals together next month, and I think that with all of our hard work together, putting our brains together, we're gonna bring about like really good results. But just in general, I think that this group here, you're gonna see a lot more of them, especially over in our Patreon side. A lot of us have specialties in specific decks and a lot of knowledge that we love to share to you guys. Some of it is going to be in the form of YouTube content. Some of it is going to deep dive over on the Patreon side. So if you guys are interested, first feel free to like, comment, subscribe in this channel, and also keep on the lookout, because we've got lots of really cool things cooking for you guys. But today we're gonna do the tier list. I know a lot of you guys are interested with what leaders are the strongest right now, what you guys should bring to a regionals or treasure cup or even national level competition, and we're here to answer it. So guys, before we get started, I think it's good to set some sort of ground rules. Here I've listed a couple of tiers that separate, I think, a lot of leaders from each other. The first up being the S tier, which is the meta defining tier. These are the leaders that every deck has to face or has to at least be competitive against. So you're gonna see a lot of the decks in OP05 play around probably the best deck in format right now, blue black Sakazuki. Every deck needs to be somewhat competitive in order to to play in this in this meta. Next up is our tier A, which is meta decks. I think the best way to describe it is these are decks that are going to be the most popular amongst the competitive crowd. These are decks that can and will allow you to top at like a regionals or a treasure cup tournament. So I think the best spokesperson for that is Katakuri over at A. Katakuri is a very, very strong deck. Lots of good, strong yellow support coming out in OP05, and especially moving forward into OP06. And just not many glaring weaknesses, and the ability to play against every deck on an even playing field. The next up is our tier list B, which is what we label as viable. So the tier list Bs, they're not as strong as the meta decks over at tier list A, but they can still top at a competitive level. They're still very, very strong decks in their own right, but they are lacking some glaring weaknesses and not as consistent as the decks above it. So I think Queen is a really, really good example of it. Queen was very, very strong in OP04. We saw a couple of tops here and there, but it never really got to the point where it was consistently fighting against the top of the meta. And I think in OP05, it's even pushed down a little bit from that side. Then we have the tier list C, which are rogue decks. Rogue decks are basically things that people cook up on a whim, but end up being slightly good and have some really good top end cards that really propel those decks forward. So I think Yamato is not the best example of it, but Yamato's leader ability isn't so bad in its own by itself. And also yellow as a color has gotten so much support over the last few formats that this deck is suddenly strong enough to win at your locals, or even sometimes enter a top 32 in a local tournament. So guys, now that we've defined all of the tier lists, I think this is where we can talk about some spicy discussions and arguments about what decks belong in what tiers. So yeah, let's get started. First up, Corazon. What do you guys think?
C tier, 100%. Just because it's a green color.
I agree with that. C tier.
Yeah.
Like Corazon could definitely fend for itself. Don Quixote got Baby 5, which searches all their core cards like 10 drop, 8 cost, but they have one inherent weakness that every green color is going to face, which is Sakazuki.
Yep.
Green is like a very slow deck, and their strength is developing their board, and if they can't develop their board, they just cripple away.
Yeah, I agree. This is coming from the Green Machine himself. Chewy has explored every single crevice that Green has to offer, and I think in OP05, Green just gets stopped completely by Sakazuki, right?
We're coming up in OP06, baby.
Yeah, baby.
I could be wrong, but didn't it do decent at the first OP05 regionals first?
Yeah, I thought it top 128.
It did, but you got to take into context that this was pre Sakazuki era. So when OP05 started, it was started with Enel, right? And Enel was everywhere, and then people figured out, hey, Pluffy is better into Enel. So then Pluffy took over, and then mid East meta, that's when Sakaluchi was born, and then that was everywhere. So it put anything green into the backseat.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think next up, this one is really interesting. I've seen a lot of this Sabo, red-black Sabo, has been popping up a lot in the local scene. So what do you guys think about the leader ability? Being able to basically protect a card once per turn and giving it minus 1,000.
Yeah, at our locals agent, you just see it everywhere. I'm sure you see it the same way I do. Everybody's just on Sabo, and it does get pretty annoying because that leader ability just gives them pretty much an extra life, right, so to speak. Especially if they're running the Hina blockers and Borsalinos and other things.
Yeah.
I don't really know the deck too much, but yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I'd say without knowing too much into it, it falls into the C. I haven't really seen any list come up as super strong to me, especially in the sim. I think that a lot of these decks kind of blow over after the initial curiosity. So
I think what it comes down to is Sabo being 4 life and red black being not the greatest synergistic colors. So
true.
The deck just it's not good enough to warrant playing a 4-life leader.
Yeah. Which,
I
you
mean,
know, this kind of sucks, right, guys? Like, OP05 came out with all these leaders, and we're all like, man, these are really fun to play, especially, like, the next one, which is Bello Betty. What do you guys think about Bello Betty?
B tier.
B tier. Oof.
B tier. I think it's supposed to be.
I think I would agree as well.
I put it above Queen, probably.
Yeah, I agree with that.
especially for our like North America scene, right?
Yeah. I love for you guys to expand on it. I do feel that Bello Betty is extremely explosive. I do question some of its consistency. But yeah, let me know. What do you what makes Bello Betty, you know, stronger than Queen right now?
It's basically Katakuri, but more explosive. So the way I view it is just like it's kind of bad Katakuri, and bad Katakuri is better than, in this case, a significantly worse Enel in Queen.
I would
That's how I
see
view
it. I would see it more as I think a good Bello Betty is very good into a field of Sakazukis, just because for her just discarding a card, she's getting 9 Dawn if you have 3 characters on field with a trigger or revolutionary army. Sakazuki barely has 2Ks in his arsenal, so you can definitely overwhelm most Sakazukis. Like, speaking of yesterday, I got blitzed at 3 life as a Sakazuki, and I just felt hopeless.
That was actually
Yeah,
hilarious.
Adrian was telling me about it.
Yeah. So guys, for the audience, I was actually watching that game, and Chewy was playing Sakazuki, you know, the best icon format, and I was looking at the board state, and he was completely in the green. He was so safe. Like I felt that he was gonna win the very next turn because Bello Betty had 0 life and one card on the field, right? Like 1 minute later, I see Chewy scooping up his cards, and I'm like, "Hey, did you win?" And he's like, "No, I just got blitzed by Bello Betty." So
This last turn he played, like, he got, first of all, you missed the trigger, which was like a character, which was Morley.
Yep.
And then he played Karasu, made my leader a 4K, and then played 2 Inazumas. And then he discarded to give like his 2 Inazumas and his Koala. Those were already on field 3K. So I was like,
Yep.
okay, I just need a couple counters from life and I can survive. Spoiler, I did not survive.
so
That's pretty insane. Like double Inazuma, like you can't really account, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you can't really play around that. If they have it, they have it.
Also, like just like a quick input, like I don't like that 3 event. I think I don't like any 3 events cards in like One Piece. I don't know.
Yeah, they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
Three cost counter events. Let's specify a little bit.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yes, sorry. Yes, the 3 cost counters.
It brings up a card to the field like INVAKOV. I think it's pretty good. But to be fair, this deck becomes more of a explosive, like super fast. I either win super fast or I lose super fast.
No, so the problem with the 3 cost event is if you leave up 3 Dawn against me, I'm just gonna blow up your board and pass back to you. And then you wasted
Yeah.
3 Dawn.
Yeah, I don't know.
Another-
I just wanted to point that out. It's like, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next one. So these 2 leaders I'm gonna lump together because they do have different leader effects, but I feel like, you know, they're just really generic black decks. You know, so Smoker and Black Luffy. What do you guys think?
C tier, move on.
Yeah. C-tier move.
Yeah, I guess D tier is a safe bet.
Yeah.
Like,
I
They
would
were-
say maybe even like the lowest C tier.
Yeah.
they were definitely below C tier before set 5, but every black deck got Rebecca and Lucci for support. Any deck that gets Rebecca and Lucci is just inherently better. Like, they got so much good support.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
That is true.
I agree.
I think the big, yeah, for those wondering, the 3 cost Hina, the 4 cost Lucci, and the 4 cost Rebecca blocker. I think a lot of black decks are trying to incorporate those, but they're, you know, in my opinion, they do it a lot worse than, you know, Sakazuki, right? And so, like, I haven't really seen a blacklist that really wows and pops to me. I think a lot of them still rely on the old black engine, which is like 6 cost Sakazuki, the 4 cost Guzan, the 4 cost Porcelino, just like the previous cards. And it's really hard to find like a new list that meshes all the new support with the old black support.
Would you guys also be comfortable putting Rob Lucci in this as well?
I don't think so, right?
Hmm?
Oh, what do you mean Rob Lucci?
The leader.
Ooh.
Oh,
Because I
put
feel
him
like they're the
in
same
C tier?
category. Yeah.
I don't think so.
I
I
don't
think
think
he's
so.
a B tier just because he
Let's
can
hear it.
surge Rob Lucci.
Yeah.
Like, he can search Rob Lucci, and they can play Soap Cheap, which basically is a CP card that minuses two other cards. So, like, I tested a bit of Rob Lucci with a friend, and we were kind of excited because we tested it into NL and Pluffy, and it was winning against them constantly. And we're like, oh my god, we found the sauce. And then we placed it against Sakazuki, and we never won a game.
Oh, damn.
But
yeah.
it's fun though. Like it gets the same support as Sakazuki and the other black decks do. It has a double attack, which is always a good strength to have, but it's just too slow against Sakazuki.
But would you
is
tell the
absolutely-
audience a deck that has a 0% chance against Sakazuki would be considered viable? I feel like most of our audience would their locals would run to like a room of at least 30% Sakazuki. So just
Well, I
auto
don't-
losing to it makes it
Yeah. So I
very strong.
think here's the cold hard truth is that I don't think any black decks are able to compete against Sakazuki currently. But so it's for me, like every deck needs to ask, can they fight against Sakazuki? And for black decks, I think the answer is always no. So if we move on past that, the question would be, can these black decks compete against all the other decks? And I think out of the three, probably Lucci has the best chance because his leader ability is the most explosive, and there are right now there's a lot of 4-life leaders in the meta, and that's where Lucci excels, right? Because he gets his double attack.
100%.
Yeah.
To be honest, I would put it like at the very minimum highest on C tier, if not low B tier.
Yeah, let's put him at the height of C and revisit him later, right?
I got you.
Yeah. All right. So the next up is Black Yellow Mom. I think this one's really interesting because I've seen some spicy lists. I think I've even seen some regional tops over in OP5. So what do you guys think about Black Yellow Mom?
It has Big Mom. What else can you say about it?
It's got the
That's it.
That's true.
It's a wrap.
It's the two best colors combined.
Straight to B tier.
Straight to B tier. All right. So the question is it at the top of B tier or is it at the very bottom or is it in the middle?
It's in the bottom.
I would say middle.
I think it's in the bottom.
It has good support from Black and in Big Mom. Any deck that has Big Mom is good in my book.
Yeah.
But I think that the problem with the Black Yellow Big Mom is that being a 4-life leader really hinders it. It's not like Big Mom or Kata. It's pretty weak. The 4-life actually hurts it a lot as someone who's like tested this deck a lot.
Yeah.
Like you have one less card, which matters in yellow and black because they're both colors that really need cards because they don't have much card draw or ways to really make much card advantage. On top of that, just having one less life, and then your leader effect is actually very anti-synergistic with your deck because you really, as yellow and black, really have really strong like late game cards, and you can't use your leader effect while playing your late game cards. So it's basically you have a leader with no effect, on top of having a 4-life leader. I think it's like I would argue it's actually C tier as someone who's tested it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't tested it, but Big Mom's strong.
Yeah. I think the leader ability is way too expensive and just not very good overall, considering yellow cards often require you to like use most of your Dawn, right? So you either play your category, you play your Big Moms, or you play your leader ability, which kind of sucks. So I'm perfectly happy keeping it at the very end of B. We can revisit it later.
Yeah.
What about yellow Lin Lin? I think yellow, like I'm just gonna say this. I think that the yellow Linlin is pretty generic. Should we just shove it at the top of tier C and call it and move on?
I think she's B tier just because she's the same deck as Kata. Well, I wouldn't say same, but similar deck to Katakuri. Only difference is Katakuri gets a guaranteed 7k. Well, she can stack triggers. So that's kind of the only buff that Katakuri gets. But she can stack Thunderbolts. She can stack blockers. She can stack Beige. I think that's still pretty good in my book.
I think you got to put her right by like Black Yellow Mom and Queen and just under Cat, right? Like you have.
I would even say she's better than Black Yellow Mom.
She
She
is.
has
Probably,
5
yeah,
life.
I
She
think
has
that's better.
Big Mom. She has all these capabilities. Like, yeah, for sure.
Speaking
General
5 life and
consensus.
4 is already
Yes.
Sorry. So everything I said about Black Yellow Big Mom, Yellow Big Mom solves that issue, right? You have a leader fight that can be fit in with your big cost cards. You have 5 life. You don't lose the card. The advantage you gain from like the black cards isn't enough to make up for it. I think the Yellow Big Mom has to be above the Black Yellow Big Mom.
Got it. All right.
I
So-
agree.
Yep. I'm happy we all agree on something finally. This one is probably gonna peeve a lot of you guys since I'm probably the one that has the most knowledge about it. The next one up is INVAKOV, the best blue leader in the game right now, without a doubt.
Wait, guys, I thought INVAKOV was supposed to be non-competitive. Why is INVAKOV there?
But yeah, why is he there though?
All right, so
What?
here's the secret sauce, guys. Here's the sauce, man. I played INVAKOV at Pasadena because I felt that it was in contention with the best decks in the format. At least for me, the top 3 decks because it had such a good matchup, and I think that persists today here in OP5. Sakazuki, Enel, and Katakuri, those are like the top guys in the meta, right? And I think that INVAKOV actually has a winning matchup against all 3 of the leaders, especially against Sakazuki. Saka isn't really good at clearing high cost units, and INVAKOV is the only character in the game that's able to produce 2 7-cost units in one turn, and be able to do that multiple times in a single game. So yeah, I'm not gonna say that it's meta right now because frankly I'm the only one who's played this, and there hasn't been any reproduced success with it. But I do think that this deck falls into the B list here. I think that if people actually gave it a try, they would actually. I think this could compete with the top of the B list, and even could enter the A list at some point. I'm just not ready to put it there yet. But I do think that this is a yellow beater. It's a Sakazuki beater, and that by itself is good enough to put it into the B list here. All right, flame me, guys.
That sounds right because like Adrian, I've talked with you like a bit about it, and B viable. I think I agree with you on that.
I think it's better than the Big Mom decks, so I agree with that.
Thank you.
I mean, the ability to reproduce 2 7-cost per turn is so good. Like,
I'm a little confused. You guys say 2 7-cost, isn't that 7 cost and a 6 cost?
no, like if
Technically,
you
it's
play
sevens.
if you play INVAKOV into a Luffy, it's 2 7-cost, or even a
Oh,
Crocodile.
isn't Luffy
Oh,
6?
Yeah, Luffy is
Luffy's
6
six.
cost.
Luffy's
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I'm
but
like, thinking
I'm
about
talking
the
about a 7k, like 7k
Yeah.
attack
2
power.
7K
Oh,
attack
yeah.
powers.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like he basically INVAKOV gets you 2 7ks on the board.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the 7K swings, and also the 7 and 6 cost is like pretty hefty for Saka to like. Well, like Adrian, what are some like OP05 cards that you play around with INVAKOV now?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of interesting cards. Honestly, I think that INVAKOV won't have a chance to be absolute top tier until OP06 when they get the boss monster that's
Yeah.
able to play the 9-cost Sanji that can play Sanji, INVAKOV, Luffy all in the same turn. That's kind of like a busted film package. But in OP05, we have a lot of the promo blue cards. So like the blue Luffy, that's 4 costs. Basically, on play you can trash 2 cards, and your opponent chooses one character on their field and bottom decks it. So this is especially targets yellow, where you're clearing the board, and then let's say they play a Yamato or a Big Mom. If you play that 4-cost Luffy and trash 2 cards in your hand, they have to bottom deck that card, and that's immense value.
No.
Yeah, it's really, really strong, but it is very situational. The thing is that you can run it as a 1-of in your INVAKOV deck, and because of your leader ability, being able to draw 2 cards when you have nothing in your hand, you're able to cycle through your hand so much that you actually see a lot of your 1-ofs and 2-ofs in your deck. So I'm still kind of testing around with these new cards, but there's just a lot of good blue cards coming out. And I think in OP06 that there's a 4-cost 6K card, Edward Weevil, that's on play. You can draw a card, and it's a 4/6 beater, so that's a
Bring Dofi back.
That's a busted. Yeah, I think Blue Dofi might come back to the meta at that point. All right.
I guess
So
Blue Dofi's next.
yeah, I'm glad we all agree on that. So next up is Blue Crocodile. What do you guys think about Blue Croc?
What does a deck that plays 8 Kaidos plays at?
I think it's the top of B tier.
Ooh,
I don't know about top,
interesting.
but I like B
Can I
tier.
explain?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So I think Blue Croc is a deck. It's kind of like Whitebeard, and we haven't gotten to this, where it's a matchup check. Most people who play against Blue Crocodile don't know to actually pick first against it. So a lot of times, players like Enel and Sokka will just give you your going first curve, and when Croc gets its going first curve, it's a really strong deck because you play your 3-cost blocker Dofi into a 5-cost into Barcelino into Mihawk into just like 10 drop bombs. Like if you're given the curve, and a lot of times because of the lack of matchup knowledge from other people, you do. The deck's really strong, and I think it's in the viable tier. If it's more popular and people know to pick first against it, it drops down. But in a world where you matchup check people, it's actually a really strong deck.
Yeah, I also think like Crocodile can become a really greedy deck in which like they can play like the 4 secret Kaidos and then some spicy stuff like more Pilafs, the other Kaidos, even Borsalino if you want. If you land like 2 of those draw 4 Kaidos, you're so ahead. Like, what deck can beat you when you draw 8 in 2 turns?
You know what deck actually can play the 10-cost Kaido?
What?
Don't say
What?
INVAKOV. Don't say INVAKOV.
INVAKOV.
Sokka's. Oh, never mind.
INVAKOV.
Never mind.
Alright, so I do agree Blue Crocodile is very, very strong. Historically has always stuck around the meta. I personally disagree that it's a stronger blue deck than INVAKOV, but for the sake of us moving on, I'm happy to put it at the top of B. I will ask,
C tier.
No.
I'd put Belly higher.
Yeah.
Higher.
Do you guys think it's better than
Probably.
Belly and Queen?
I think Betty is definitely higher, just because she can blitz. So Betty can lose to everything and can win against everything as well.
Yeah, Betty seems a bit more consistent in what it's trying to do, I guess, if that makes sense.
100%. Like if they go second and they draw 2 searchers, I'm already like praying. It's like, oh god, I'm fucked.
Belly is
Yeah.
consistent in that it can inconsistently win against every deck.
Yes,
Right.
that is the statement.
That's
right
a good
there.
way to put it.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on. Moving on. I think Doflamingo, which was probably in contention for best deck in format in 4.5. What do you guys think Doflamingo does in 5.0?
C
I think it's
tier.
decent.
Tier, move on.
I think it's C tier.
Yeah.
Oh, C tier.
Yeah.
I will put it high C tier. Yeah, I'm not sure where, but yeah.
I think it's the strongest
Like-
of C. But yeah, Chewy, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has two things it goes up against. First, it's a green deck that just suffers against Sakasuki, and if you're playing any purple leader, why are you not playing Luffy? So,
Yep.
I think it belongs to C.
Yeah. It's a strong deck.
Could be B.
Yes. Let's keep. I think it's too good for C, but I don't think that it is viable, guys. What do you think? Bottom of B.
I don't know. As the person who topped with Dofi, I think it's a C tier. That's just my honest opinion.
That is true,
I just don't
guys.
think it's
Steven got 12th place at Pasadena
That's
with
true.
Dofi, so he would know.
Is he our best GP showing that we know? GP Dofi
I
showing?
think so. All right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Chewy's second place leader, Captain Kid. Where Chewy? Where does Captain Kid go?
B tier.
B tier.
Yeah, 100%. Just because it's the only green leader that can double swing. You can play the film variant, maybe splash with something else like Supernova or even Don Quixote, and it's good. I would say it's good against the field, like Katakuri and even Enel. You spam the board and you go wide.
Yep.
And you just kill them before they can like outgrind you. It might be a bit hard against Sakazuki because they have good removal, but you're still a double swinger at the end of the day. They can brick up, and if you keep double swinging till the end, they might not have enough defense to like cover all your attacks.
Got it. Yeah, I do think it's one of the decks only. It is definitely the only green deck that has an outside chance of beating Asaka. But also, I think its leader ability is pretty broken. Discarding one card, tapping 3 just to swing again. My question is, do you think it's better than Crocodile? Better than our little mommies?
No,
Got it.
not really. It has a chance. I think it's a little bit underexplored. Like I've explored it a bit. I've tried explored outside of the film variant. Like I've tried Don Quixote Supernova. It's too slow.
Yeah.
Because Sakazuki just stops him in his tracks.
Got it. All right.
Sure. I have a quick question for you. Do you actually think that it's worse than the Big Moms decks right now in this current format?
No, I think it's better than them.
I think it beats the
Yeah.
moms.
Yes, like
Yeah.
yellow decks, right? Like it can
So
do pretty well.
I put it. I would even put it higher in the B tier because it beats. I would say it beats all yellow. It can beat Luffy, which are going to be probably the most represented decks. More than Sakazuki. Sakazuki's a great deck.
You have to
But
move it
it's
higher.
hard.
if it
It's
can
hard to
do
pilot.
well. Yeah, like you have to move it higher if it can do well against yellow and Luffy.
That's
And
true.
Luffy.
Yeah.
But if it's too hard into Sakazuki, yeah, it has a chance, but it's definitely not like.
Would
Feels
it
like Sokka checks it pretty hard.
would it be your pocket pick at all, Chewy?
I'm still testing it. It definitely can be my like, if push comes to shove.
Yep.
If I can't
Yeah.
find something that sticks to me, I can always go with my comfort.
Yeah.
But it would be my worst case scenario. I'll play this.
All right.
I
Jeff,
think we were a little harsh on the Dofi too. I think it's actually better than the Big Moms on second thought.
Jeff,
That's what I thought too. That's why I'm like
Yeah.
at least high C tier, if not higher.
Yeah, let's move Duffy up here really quick.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
He
Jeff,
does play 10 drop.
Jeff, I know you're
Yeah.
also a kid player. So like, do you think this is a good place, putting him in the upper middle B tier for kid?
I think that's reasonable. Yeah, like I think the threat of double swing will always be there, and it's a insane leader ability. But just the fact that Sakazuki can put out 2 blockers with 1 card in Rebecca
Yeah, it's
is
tough.
crazy, and it just kind of stops kid. in my
Yeah,
opinion.
they can definitely cycle Manchuri into Rebecca Borso, which is lights out for kid, no matter what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, they get to do it again next turn too.
All right. Next up, speaking of Dofi, what about Blue Dofi?
Hot take, B tier.
Oof.
I don't know if that's a hot take. I think it's better than
Yeah.
Black Yellow Big Mom.
I
I mean,
think
all the blue decks are there, so
Well, I
I'd
think
put it up with all the blue decks, honestly.
Yeah,
Oh,
same.
that's true. That's true.
In the middle.
You know what?
Yeah.
just
While we're on this topic,
behind INVAKOV.
I think let's rearrange it a little bit, right? I think that blue Dofi, green purple Dofi is at the bottom. I think what we're gonna do is, I want to move these guys to C tier because it seems like these two mom decks are barometer for the B tier. But I also don't think that black yellow mom deserves to be in the C tier.
I think it does.
You think so?
I think I feel that's like my strongest opinion right now. I think like that's in the wrong tier.
she
That deck
she,
is like,
she could be the top of C tier.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's too different. Like bottom of B, top of C.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind the
It's
yellow
reasonable.
big bomb being in B, but I think the black yellow big bomb, you guys are really overrating.
Yeah, I agree with Steven.
Yeah.
Like it's a 4-life leader.
Mhm.
4-life leaders generally suffer. The only reason Sakazuki is so good is because he can cycle and is so consistent. But any 4-life leader, that's not like Law or Sakazuki.
But
just
also blue black
suffers
is
in
a better
general.
combination than yellow black.
100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
all right.
Until OP06.
Until OP06.
Yeah.
And then green black is also very good.
Dude, Jeff, we need our boy Justin here to speak about Blue Dofi because he can go in. He can, right?
We
He still
do,
plays,
we
right?
do. He hasn't played in a while, but
Oh shit.
yeah. Maybe when we get that Edward Weevil.
Nice. All right, guys. Moving on. I think Ace is super interesting. I'm gonna give my opinion on it first because I was an Ace man. I love Ace. I think Ace is actually in a really interesting position. I'm gonna say he's somewhere in the B tier. Ace is
I
actually
agree.
one of the decks that is able to beat Sakazuki consistently, but it loses against yellow, especially against NL. I've tried a couple variations, but I haven't seen anything that I think Ace instant loses to NL, and that's like pretty disheartening. Against Katakuri, I think that even the better Ace players is going to say that Katakuri is always favored. This was the case back in OP04, 4.5. I think moving on to 05, where they have better support. I think that's a losing matchup as well. So it just sucks that this isn't the meta for Ace. So I'm actually gonna put him probably above Doflamingo, and below the blue decks. What do you guys think?
I can see that. Like, I don't know if you guys heard about the Eastern scene, but I heard some things about Ace. I can't recall it right now, but weren't there like did Ace top in OP05 or something? There was like some talks with Ace, right?
I think there might have been a few.
I don't know about the placing in B, but I definitely know he belongs in B because, he definitely has a good matchup into Sokka, and you're obviously running a variant of Whitebeard, and the only way Whitebeard can battle against Yellow is if they play like Newgate, 9-cost Newgate. And if you're able to stick a couple of Newgates, one or two, they have a pretty good chance against Katakuri, even NL. Like a 9-cost Newgate, or even Flame Emperor. Like you control their board, you're able to play also unrestricted Marco, and I'm talking about like this is all a hard setup, but when they high roll, they're a pretty hard deck to beat, regardless of who they're facing. Like they have so many tools at their disposal.
Yeah, actually, I might be downplaying Ace a little bit too much. I think Ace might be closer towards the top.
I would even say he's the top of B tier.
Ooh.
Like he's pretty consistent as well.
I can agree with that.
Well, I mean, like he beats all those decks in the B2, like most of it, right?
Yeah, I do agree. I think he's better than Queen.
think
I think he beats Betty.
Just beating some. Sorry.
What I liked about Ace specifically compared to the other decks in B tier is he's more consistent.
He is.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
He is.
Agreed.
He is.
I would argue he's like probably like top 3 most consistent like deck in the game. You as like an ace player, like that was one of the things that really drove me to play ace, is that I could pull off the same combos over and over again every game, no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like Ace is definitely the viable. I mean, like look at all the ban lists, right? It was targeting Newgate and like Zoro and like all that, and it just hits Ace on the side like a stray. But like now he's full power, right?
Yeah, I'm
So
I'm not gonna lie though, Chewy. Ace has no chance against NL. Like it was really rough.
wait, is it worse than
Damn.
like, because we're gonna speak about Zoro, but like if you had to compare Zoro versus NL with two Ace and NL,
It's not as bad, but there's not like
yeah, I feel like it's better.
Well, thing is, you could play like buggies, and I mean even Dawn if you can make space for it. And I can see a world where you can make a big enough board where you can one shot Enel in one turn. But obviously, any deck that's red against NL is heavily unfavored because NL is so annoying.
Yeah.
I guess the other question is, how is good is Ace into Pluffy? Because that's also a very relevant matchup.
I actually think it's pretty good into Pluffy.
It's good.
Yeah,
I would
He's
say it's good.
playing Emperor and
Pluffy's killing himself. He's helping you kill him.
yeah. If we're talking about like the power of double swings. Sorry, go ahead, Steven.
What's holding Ace back from A tier then? Because the way you guys were describing it, he sounds like an A tier leader.
You can't hang with yellow.
Yeah, like
Yeah, that's what I think too. He just gets hard checked by Kata and Enel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, like I guess if like Adrian, if you would have to simulate like 50 games, like how many games can Ace take from like Katakuri and like things like that?
If I were taking Ace against Katakuri back in 4.5, I'd be happy if I split games or got like 1 wins 2 losses against a Katakuri at a regionals.
Right.
Even when I played like the most efficient lines, after testing everything, I just don't see myself going anything above 50-50, on when everything is going right. So it's just tough. I haven't tested an 05, but against Katakuri in 05, but against NL it was just like I just couldn't.
Yeah, yellow got stronger this set too. So
yeah. All right, let's move on. I'm happy that my favorite leader is in top of V. Tears to my eyes, man. Here's another great leader. I think one of my favorite leaders ever, actually, and the precursor to Sokka. I would say like the Sokka 1.0. Let's talk about Rebecca. What do you guys think?
Ooh, I think you and Chewy can probably speak a lot on this, right?
I mean, I think most people would say it's viable. It got the same support as Sakazuki or any black deck. It even got Hound's Blaze. It's just a blue deck. But I think it's an A tier deck because against Sakazuki, Sakazuki cycles, but Rebecca can draw 2 constantly every turn, so it can ungrind a deck like Sakazuki. One of its hardest matchups, I guess, it would be like Katakuri because they have Big Mom.
Yeah,
but Rebecca has great removal. And if you can fine tune the deck to beat yellow, I think it's in a great spot in the meta. It's definitely underexplored for sure. I'm still exploring it myself, but it's a very good grind deck. It has good removal. It's very consistent as well. I think that it has a lot of things going great for it. It's just underexplored, in my opinion.
Yeah. So here's my take, and I 100% agree with pretty much everything that you're saying. It's definitely unexplored, and I haven't been able to spend the time to test it. So for me, Rebecca in OP 4.5 was the best deck in format. I know a lot of people thought that Doflamingo was, but I actually believe that Rebecca was because a lot of people thought Katakuri beats Rebecca, in 4.5. I don't think that's true. I actually think that was a completely winning matchup on Rebecca's side, where if you play it right, you get to an end game state where Katakuri's at 4 life or so, and you're at 0. But then as long as you reserve enough blockers and you play the right way, aside from like double Thunderbolt triggers that you sometimes just can't avoid, you're always in a winning game state. And I think that, that still holds true, especially since, yellow is really weak against one card, and that card is Sabo. Rebecca can consistently search for and draw Sabo and play Sabo. That card, plays around Thunderbolt, it plays around Amaru. So it's still very, very strong against yellow. And Rebecca, is such a strong deck, because it does similar things that Sokka does, right? Cycles and wave clears, board control. So I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry to chime in again, but I think Rebecca is such a creative leader in a way that she mills so much, especially with the Rebecca support she got. You can almost create like a toolbox kind of deck where you run a bunch of 1-of and 2-ofs that you can always recover through Rebecca or Manshuri. So her ceiling is super high because you almost can do whatever you want with the deck.
Yes. Okay. So here's what I think is that I think that this is Rebecca has a potential, but I don't think that it is part of the meta. And I think as long as Sokka's there, people will hesitate to play Rebecca because why would you play Becca when you can play Sokka, right?
That's true.
So I would rather put it at the top of B. It's too strong to be at B, but I think right now it's not strong enough to play at A because it is so unexplored, as we spoke.
Can I make an argument of why I think it's pretty solid in the B tier?
Yeah.
And not so one is Rebecca has a bad yellow matchup specifically against Katakuri. So that's just a bad matchup, right?
Yeah.
I also think any Sakazuki with Kaido outright outvalues Rebecca because you can't outgrind 10 cost Kaido. And you're so slow, they have time to just play it and they just draw 4 and you can't outvalue that. And then against the lists that don't run 10 cost Kaido, they run usually 3-4 cost Kuzans, and what they can do against you is they just recycle their Kuzans and keep playing them over and over. And because usually Rebecca combos 2-for-1s the Kuzan, so Kuzan just cycles itself, and then Rebecca has to answer it with 2 costs. So you keep playing that over and over, you actually outgrind the Rebecca very quickly if you understand the matchup. So I think actually Sokka is actually a really bad matchup for Rebecca if both sides know what they're doing.
So I think there's... yeah?
Just losing to the two of the most popular decks just puts you in the viable tier. You can't be meta in that case.
So I actually don't think that... I don't know if it's still winning against the OP05 category. I know that it was winning against 4.5. But I do agree that no matter how you slice the cake, I don't think Rebecca stands a chance against Sokka. So...
Also, to add on to what Steven was saying, I don't think it has a very good Pluffy matchup either because you're not really pressuring Pluffy early game, and Pluffy's just ramping for free. So, I think you can go to 3 Dawn, 2 Dawn, 3 life, 2 life very easily just by ramping himself because Rebecca's just not swinging.
Yeah.
So,
the one thing that we failed to talk about is how slow Rebecca is. She has the worst early game out of the meta decks. What do you think, Chewy?
Well, I don't disagree with that. She is pretty slow. She's kind of like a roller coaster where she's got to warm up before she kind of eases into her best state of the game.
Yeah.
But I do think she's viable, at least.
Yeah.
I agree with at least viable.
I'm gonna put her above Ace.
I think
I'm gonna put her above Ace. I'll give you that.
She's my pet deck. I love the deck as it is. It's super fun, but of course it's underexplored, and I can't exactly say with certainty if it's A.
I'd say B viable because it's so unexplored, but we do all agree it's Sokka 1.0, right?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely viable.
I also do want to add, there's some talks, let's say there's a world that Bandai, does some kind of ruling that hits Sokka, blah, 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 with, Rebecca character or, whatever. that just moves Rebecca all the way up, right? If they do
Oh,
something.
I'll be 100% playing Rebecca if Sokka gets limited or something.
All right.
Yeah, it's like
That's-
everybody's been talking about that.
And
So
yeah.
yeah,
we spent 20 minutes on Rebecca. That's how much we love that deck. So let's give the other deck some love. Let's talk about our Mr. I got banned because I was so OP. But you know,
skill
Whitebeard.
diff.
Yeah, what's going on with Whitebeard, guys?
Steven?
A tier?
A tier?
Hey. Ooh.
A tier?
I like below category in A tier.
I agree, but it's still A tier.
For me, it's bottom of A or top of B.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff here.
Yeah.
I tested a little bit of Whitebeard myself, and it just gets overshadowed by Enel. I mean, it can still be Katakuri, I guess, but Sakazuki has to brick. But they have all the answers to deal with Whitebeard.
I actually think Whitebeard versus Sokka is an even matchup.
Yeah.
I
So,
agree. Yeah.
I actually tried a little bit of the new variant, which is Gasbeard. So for the audience, there's two variations of Whitebeard right now. There's the standard Whitebeard package where they're running, 3 of the Whitebeards, the 9 costs. And then there's a new form where it's called Gasbeard, where it's essentially just a deck full of rushers, kind of like a Zoro-esque type deck where you just swing at your opponent and try to kill them before you gas out, ultimately. And that Gasbeard deck was made to fight against Sakazuki, where it actually has a slightly favorable matchup, but a worse matchup into Katakuri now. And one of the cruxes of Whitebeard is that it auto loses to NL. So what do you guys think about that evaluation?
It also loses to Fluffy really hard.
Fluffy, yes.
Yep.
So,
Yep, Red Purple Luffy as well.
oh man, there's.
I think we have to take into account like for the North America scene too. I feel like taking that to account, yeah, I definitely agree with the A tier for Whitebeard.
Yeah,
because we do love the old man and we do hate him as well. But yeah,
I mean, Old Man is still a strong deck, right? 9 cost Whitebeard is broken into Whitebeard, but I just don't think it'll be anything like it'll stay at the very bottom of the A tier. I feel.
So can I point something out that Whitebeard has over all the B tier decks? Is it has no auto lose matchup in the amongst the other meta defining decks. It has a chance to everything. Well, a lot of the B tier decks have an auto loss matchup. I think that's the big reason why I would put it in meta over viable.
Yep.
I would agree with that. Like even the Enel matchup, right? It's probably like a lot better than like Zoro and like Ace because of the 9 beards.
Okay.
And like other things.
All right. Next up is Trafalgar Law, red purple Trafalgar Law. What do you guys think about that?
If it wasn't for Sokka, S tier. But if it's for Sokka, A tier.
Dude, Adrian, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like this deck, dude. I like this deck.
Yes. So guys, I think that RP Law, we got to keep things moving, but I think RP Law is in an interesting spot where it's actually a sleeper pick into this meta. I've, after a lot of grinding and a lot of practice, figured out a line where it's actually decent into Sakazuki. I wouldn't say it's ever favorable, but you basically rely on your 4-cost Law to play the game essentially, and I think that it gives you a decent chance, like a 45-55 chance of beating Sokka's. On top of that, I think that RP Law is really, really good into yellow right now. I think it's really favorable in the category. I think it's slightly favorable into NL as well. So just being able to beat yellow and having a decent chance against Sakazuki, I think puts it somewhere in the middle of A tier. It's also like, I would say that it's slightly less favorable, but closer to 50-50 against Purple Luffy. So I think all around it's got really good matchups, and it auto wins against Red Green Law, by the way. So
yeah, I feel like it's a bit unexplored in general, but like I've tested the deck a couple of days. It feels pretty really, really strong. yeah, I felt like if you put some games into it and learn the matchups, you could definitely matchup check a lot of people.
Yep.
I think the greatest strength the deck has between all the decks that are left is that people don't know how to play against it because they don't have enough practice against it. I think a good player would know what to do. A good example would be like to starve the red purple law. You limit his options on what he can summon to the field. But because of that, I think it's in a pretty good spot in the meta.
Yeah. Cool. Yep. Next up is red purple Luffy. So you guys, I have less knowledge about this, so you guys go ahead.
I think he's solid A tier. He's like Whitebeard at home.
Whitebeard. Oh.
I can
think
see him
he's
right
a-
behind Whitebeard.
I actually like him a little bit better than Whitebeard. I would put him above Whitebeard.
Well,
Yeah,
he
it's not bad.
he faces the same problem as Whitebeard, which is the yellow matchup, at least against Enel, is so hard. I don't know about the Katakuri matchup, but it also has one of the reasons people like playing this deck is because it has a really favorable matchup. I wouldn't say too favorable, but it has an edge against Sakazuki. Being able to ramp fast into either Newgate or 10 cost Luffy just puts them in an edge. Being able, like, they did just aggro out Sakazuki sometimes, especially if they don't have early counter.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes.
So I think it's a behind Whitebeard because Whitebeard has a better Sokka matchup and better Enel matchup.
Is Luffy worse into NL than Whitebeard?
I think so. Just because he's a 3. He depends a lot of ramp for him to be good. He's a 3 life leader, while Whitebeard draws 2 cards every turn.
Got it.
Yeah, I think you need Rush to beat a Nell, just to poke away their hand as fast as they can.
Yep.
And Luffy, red purple Luffy doesn't really have as much Rush as Whitebeard does.
Yes.
It is interesting though because we have a friend who was in the 3v3 and he apparently beat out 3-4 NLs, right, or something
He did. Yeah.
with RP Luffy. So
I also think that was like the first week of a regional, and a lot of people did not know the matchup. So
that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, if he were here, he'd be like, "No, this guy, RP Luffy, is at the top of it." All right. Yeah. I think next up is Nami. So this is kind of Nami's like the other sleeper pick, right? Where I think the best Nami players can reach the very top and win any sort of meta because Nami doesn't rely on anything but itself to do its win condition, but also like the lowest floor, right? I think if you don't know how to play Nami, or if you just learned it a week ago, you could scrub out any sort of tournament at any competitive level. So having such a high ceiling and a low floor, what do you guys think? Where would you place it?
if we're assuming that someone can play red purple law to a meta level, then we have to assume they can play Nami to a meta level too, right? If we're making both assumptions, because both those decks I think have very high difficulty and take about the same amount of time investment. And I think that a person who spends a lot of time with Nami actually will outperform someone who spends a lot of time on red purple law. So I actually would put it above red purple law under these assumptions.
I would see it more as how is it good into the field. I think it's really good into Sakazuki, just because Sakazuki's. I guess it can go wide, but it's not like a naturally go wide. Like one of its cards that goes wide is Rebecca. Rebecca's just a blocker that helps you go wide. But in the end, any deck that's slow, inherently it's bad against Nami because Nami's just gonna mill out before they can do anything. Sure, Pluffy kind of locks Nami out, but it's also like Steven said, like a skill check. If you don't know how to play against Nami, it's almost a free win for Nami. At least somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't like playing against Nami, so a lot of people don't have a lot of practice against Nami, and I think Enel is also pretty slow. If they get the Holy Om combo, maybe it's a little harder, but if they don't have that, you're in a pretty good, you're in the clear, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely viable, but yeah, I guess the general game plan against Nami is to just go wide, right? And yeah,
Well, there's two camps when it comes to Nami. It's either go tall or go base attack power. I'm in the base attack power because whenever you attack 5Ks, they always are going to over counter their events. So
Yep.
like they have to use their love beans for a 5K or a 6K
Yeah.
yeah, as
or
a
all their events, and
Here's-
that's like 5K for an event that can guard a 9K.
as a
Here's
Zoro main, I agree.
yeah. Here's where I'm at with
100%.
here's where I'm at with Nami is that like I do agree. If you practice Nami a lot, you can get really good and get really good results. But out of all the decks that we've seen over the last like this whole year, right? Like Nami's been viable, right? In every tier list, Nami's been viable, or at least like somewhere in the top of the tier list. And we haven't really seen that many Nami results, right? There's not very many good Western players that play Nami. And even in the Eastern scene, there aren't very many Nami winners. So even though Nami has the highest ceiling, we've seen Nami win it all before. How often does that happen, right? So
Nami just won, just got first place in the 3v3.
That is true.
that is a 3v3, and I know that Nami didn't go 6-0.
Went 5-1.
I went 6-0. Doesn't mean that I'm the best. Yeah, I mean, Nami is really good. Okay, so I mean, I'm just okay. If you guys want to put it somewhere in the middle,
I think it would be B tier, like top of B tier if you want, just
I
because,
feel like
or
it's-
low
I
of
feel
A.
like- I think it's low A.
I'd say it's at
I think it's viable, but like probably up there. But
I'm comfortable with putting it at
I'd say low A.
yeah, I think I'm comfortable with putting it at the lowest of A, just because the usage is so low, but that it's up there with the best of the best of them.
But red purple law usage is so low too. Like, let's be consistent.
that is fair. Though.
That is fair. Let's okay, just for the sake of consistency, let's move red purple law a little bit lower. I just think
Actually, I do agree with that now because like the 6K stat line is like a bit tough sometimes, or like it is in general. I think right, Adrian. Like it's just for like RP law, So
yeah, I mean I don't agree until
Yeah.
it's not as consistent as the other top tier decks. All right, next up is Zoro. What do you guys? Okay, Supra. What do you think, Mister Best Zoro in the West?
dude, you just dude. Honestly, like straight up, I think it's probably a meta tier.
Yep.
I mean, I like that Enel matchup is very difficult, but I joke around. I don't think it's like damn near impossible. I mean, it's like pretty damn close, but I mean, I took a win off of Enel somehow, some way, but yeah, it's pretty strong to Sakazuki because you're just like checking their counters, and you're like taking the deck to like against all these slower decks, right? And like
Yeah.
all these decks that are running like less counters and like purple Luffy. Well, purple Luffy just does well into it because of the leader ability is slowly killing itself, and so they need like certain cards like their 7 good. But yeah, like I can see it A tier.
What do you guys think? One of the only decks that from the past that actually is strong into Sakazuki, poor against NL, and competitive against pretty much any other deck out there. Thoughts?
I think it has the best matchup into Sakazuki out of all the red decks.
Yep.
Because it's a leader that's a straw hat that can target itself for Diable Jambe. You can also play Unblockable Luffy. So you have a couple of targets where you can just basically cheat. You go pressure early, the Sakazuki, and then you just unblockable when they're at 2 life a couple times, and they just lose. They don't have enough to defend all this pressure.
And also to add to that, like most decks are running the 1 cost Nico Robins that pops a 1K power or less, which is also good into yellow decks that run the Brules. Yeah. So and it's also like another weenie body if you need to. And like even in the Katakuri matchup, it's definitely a lot harder now. But like it's still for sure winnable. Like and also like if you were to face like Whitebeards and stuff too, like that's also very, very winnable.
Well, it's almost like Bell Betty in a sense, right? Where it becomes a glass cannon. So it becomes a point where you either beat them or you just lose.
Yeah, so that was an interesting, like I haven't had a lot of testing, but I actually had some testing at locals with the Zoro versus Bella Betty and on the sim as well. And I think generally Zoro does fairly well against Bella Betty. I think it's just the fact that you're plussing so many cards and like just learning when to not swing at their like, let's say they don't really have a board and you have a board at Zoro, which is like probably more so often. And like maybe they're at like 2 life. Just don't swing into them and like just build your bigger board and just go for game later on. Yeah. So just don't give them any outs.
So does anyone think it's not probably closer to the top of A tier, maybe right behind Katakuri and above Whitebeard? Does anyone disagree with that?
I would think it's right about that. Yeah.
That's exactly
yes,
where I'd put it.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
Agreed. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Next up is Purple Luffy. What do we think? Purple Luffy boys. I know that we didn't. I know a lot of our Purple Luffy players in the 3-on-3 didn't do as well. But I think it's a really, really strong deck, and a lot of the problems that we see in RP Luffy, which is inconsistent ramping, Purple Luffy inherently is really consistent at doing it. What do you guys think?
I think it's in the non-competitive local legend tier. Thanks to Garvin.
I agree. Yeah. No, we can put that and move on.
Okay. Serious.
But
I
I think it's probably A tier, right?
Highest.
I
Above
think
Katakuri, right?
Well, I think it's almost low end of S tier, just because it can beat anything that's not Sakazuki. It can beat Enel pretty consistently. It can beat all the red, like Whitebeard and Luffy pretty consistently as well.
Yep. You're right. Yeah, okay, if we're talking about sleep, like I think RP Law is my sleeper pick, but if we're talking about like meta sleeper picks, I think going into nationals, Purple Luffy might make a resurgence just because right now yellow is all the rage, especially NL. I think just making a prediction, we're gonna see the most popular deck at nationals will probably be NL, right? And combined with Katakuri, you're probably gonna see a 40% plus presence of yellow. And I think Purple Luffy being really strong to that, and also still having an outside chance of beating Sakazuki, puts it at the top of A tier. Agreed, guys?
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, Purple Luffy's so easy. Like I think it might even be the most represented deck because of how easy it is to play.
Steven, yeah.
Hot take, but
I think that's a really hot take. Let's go with that.
All right. Next up, we got 2 leaders left, boys. We're at an hour and 8 minutes, so we're gonna wrap this up. Red Green Law. What do you think?
It's kind of like Pluffy in the sense where like you beat everything, not Sokka, but you hard lose to Sokka. So if we're doing that same argument with Pluffy, I would put it above Pluffy.
Yeah, I would definitely put it above Pluffy as well.
I can see that for sure.
But wait,
really?
It loses to Red Purple Law.
But what does Purple Law lose to though?
Red Purple Law loses to Sokka and
you itself and Sokka.
And loses to in itself, it loses to Enel.
And it doesn't lose that L.
It
loses
does.
to
It does.
Whitebeard.
I have
It
proof
We learned that
Yeah.
tonight. We
myself.
learned that tonight.
Oh, no.
Be quiet, Chewy. Be quiet. No, I think realistically, I think it's slightly favored into NL. You know what? We're not talking about red purple law anymore. We're talking about red green law.
We're the one that brought it up.
Yeah.
Hush, child. No, I agree. So I think I would say that red green law. I would consider one of the candidates to win nationals completely. It does have an unfavorable matchup into Sakazuki. But yeah, it's just such an explosive deck, and it's just so broken. I don't really know what else to say about it.
I mean, it could compete with it could beat out most of the A tier list. Like it'll probably struggle a bit against what you would say like Whitebeard,
Zoro,
and like Zoro. Well, most
I think
Zoros
it
aren't
beats
running
Zoro,
fire fist.
I do.
Yeah, so
I,
it beats
really?
Zoro.
I do think like Whitebeard, like since Whitebeard's not the meta deck anymore, they're not teching against it, so it might have a hard matchup into Whitebeard.
Right,
But-
right.
One thing I will say about law decks now is that they are not running Vista anymore, and yeah, not having the ability to pop stuff is actually makes law a little bit worse than before.
But to be fair, Sakazuki does have to see at least one, maybe even two Luchis
Yep.
to make the matchup easy. If they don't see that, then it can definitely swing in Law's favor. Like
Yeah.
they definitely
Well,
can go wide and overwhelm
Yep.
them.
Actually, I think we're overhyping Law because Law can also just not draw 5-cost Law and have a really bad day.
No, impossible.
No, truly possible.
My opponents always have 5 cost law. What do you
Oh,
mean?
you're
Well-
right. No, they don't have one. They have like 3.
Well, that
Yeah.
red green law and like purple matchup, I think Jeff and Steven, you guys had those matchups in the 3v3, so like it's like pretty
I
favorable
played-
for like
I
law,
played
right?
2 laws, and
Yeah,
it
it's
was
like-
not fun. I'll
Yeah,
tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
Yeah.
But like Law could also just lose to itself. I think maybe top of meta's a little too much. Like it's not. It's a contender if you have a really hot take.
I like it below Pluffy and Kata, but above
I
a
agree.
I think.
Here's my take is like it's in the same spot that Pluffy is in. Beats everything except Sokka, except Law beats Pluffy, right?
But Law has a lot more
I
consistency.
think Law loses much harder to Sakazuki than Pluffy does. That's why
Okay.
I put him below.
Ooh, I don't know about that one.
mm,
I definitely agree with that. Pluffy, if it high rolls, like it sees Magellan on curve, then Polly, and then Kaido, any deck would struggle against that.
For the audience, Pluffy
You can put it
is
right
really
behind
strong
Triple Luffy.
because there's something called the God Curve for Pluffy, where you get to play Magellan at turn 2, and then you play Polly to ramp, and then right after that you get 9 Dawn, and you play Kaido. So Magellan, Polly, Kaido, and if you play that, any deck that's not named Sakazuki will lose to you automatically.
Also, you're not even at 9 Dawn on the last turn. Polly ramps you to 10.
Great, thanks for telling me
Yep.
that. I forgot.
Pretty gross.
Terrible. That deck is busted. All right, guys, we're finally at the finish mark. We left the best for last. The talk of the town, probably the second best deck in format. NL, I'm putting it right at S tier. Fight me.
just put it right in front of Sokka, man. Just put Sokka behind
Oh my
it.
God.
No. Why would you do that?
Well, it is meta defining. I agree. I
That's
actually
what it
don't-
seems like.
It defines the meta, but I actually don't think it's the second best deck.
Oh, do tell.
Ooh,
Yeah,
what do you think
tell.
is the second best deck then?
I actually think it's Kata, but
No, 100% disagree.
Yeah.
but
No.
I mean, hear me why I think Enel. Humor me why I think Enel's not as good as people think it is. I think Enel overperformed the first event because a lot of players don't know how to play into Enel. Once people practice the matchup, Enel actually doesn't do great into Sokka. I think Kata can do pretty well into it. if you both have average like triggers, I think like Kata can get to 10 cost mom and beat you as well. I think that Fluffy has a good matchup into you. I think Red Green Law has a good matchup into you. Like we're just going down the list, right? Zoro and Whitebeard have a bad matchup. So we read the red deck, all the red decks, honestly. I think Nami probably has a good matchup into you. Like it has a lot of bad matchups in the meta decks.
But if we're talking about a big tournament, like I'm gonna use nationals like as a bar, any deck that is consistent is destined to do good in general. NL is one of the most consistent decks in the meta right now. Like it, even if it bricks, you still need 3 attacks to kill this leader. Which is, you cannot say that about any deck. Like
Yeah.
any red deck suffers into this. If you have any sort of heal like Yamato or Katakuri or even Seven Mom, you stall. Like this deck can literally stall for turns and just grind you out, regardless of what leader you are.
I think with respect to our S tier title, the meta defining, it's pretty valid, right?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you guys. It's
Yeah.
meta defining. I just think that like it's a little overhyped. I just want to have a discussion on that.
That is true. That is fair. It's a very like matchup skill check, right? Like if you're just playing into Anel's game, you know, and you don't know how to like play around stuff and all that.
Here's my take is that I ultimately think that Sakazuki will end up winning nationals. I think the best Sakazuki player will win nationals. But I think that outside of the very top players, I think NL is favored into Sakazuki, and I think that we've seen that consistently across all of our locals. East Bay, Sacramento, Bay Area, South Bay. Yeah, I mean, I've personally heard of a lot of players wean off of Sakazuki in favor of NL. I've seen a lot of local NL players topping and going X and O. So, and amongst other things, NL being good into pretty much every other deck. Having that meta defining, you need 3 swings to try to kill me at least. I just don't see another deck that has all these amazing qualities, and that's why I'm placing him like at number 2, right behind Sakazuki. I think if Pluffy becomes more popular, NL might get shoved down a peg just because Pluffy is NL's weakness. But as for Katakuri, I just don't think Katakuri will be up there until that promo Zoro comes out. Where instead of having 4 Thunderbolts in a deck, you have pretty much 8 because of those Zoros.
Well, same thing would be for NL, right?
That's true. NL does get better.
Yep. But
yeah,
it's
yellow is a cursed color.
It's like you say, like NL has essentially 3 life every turn, and that ability to have Brule, Sanji, Amaru, anything that lets it live for a little bit longer is just such a strong ability to have. Which Katakuri doesn't have, by the way. I mean, they get life and they get big dudes, but they do not have the ability to cheese as much as NL can.
Yeah, but I think Kata has, especially at like the highest level, is like you can pressure with it so well, and then you get to a point where everyone gets to a point where you have to swing to the Kata to race them, and then they get a body trigger, and then you suddenly die. I feel like that happens with Kata a lot. It's like it can pressure you to a point where you're just like, please don't have a trigger, and their deck is half triggers. So
yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Steven there. Like me personally, I do like Kata over NL for sure. But I think for the current results and like looking into like Nats 4 weeks out, I think I definitely agree with this NL behind Sokka and also this list for now, right?
I do think we're underplaying Katakuri a little bit. I would maybe put Katakuri. I would place him above Red Green Law, maybe above Pluffy as well. But I think that Pluffy is probably the 3rd place deck What do you guys think?
Sure. I think we're underplaying Kata, but we'll see with the results of Nats and other events to see where things shuffle around.
But here's the thing, though. Like we've seen a lot of Kata. Like Kata has, I would say, like based on the amount of players that players have come, like Kata has underperformed based on the amount of players that are playing Kata in every large competition. Right?
Yeah,
Well-
but it's always one Kata has the amazing Kata run and always tops too.
Well, it's like Kaido, right? You high roll every game. You see everything you need every game. So they're the casino, but to put that a little bit aside, with this, you can definitely take into account this tier list. Like you have 3 new leaders at the top, so you can definitely tell power creep is incoming and it's coming fast.
Yeah. True.
Yep.
All right. Well, that does wrap up our tier list. We went over. We did a record hour and 20 minutes, but I think it was a really really fun conversation. Thank you guys all for taking your time out to do this. I know it's like really late, so we all got to go to sleep. But guys, if you guys got this far, thank you so much for listening in. This is almost like a podcast type format, and we're testing out new things and trying things that we think is fun, and hopefully you guys also find very entertaining. Us bickering like old couples about what card beats another card. But yeah, if you guys like this, definitely leave in the comments. Let us know if you found this informative or helpful in any way. But yeah, this was our tier list. I'm gonna go share this or something, and be sure to check out our very next video. Do you guys have any shout outs? Go. Got 20 seconds.
Shout out to Green, baby. Hopefully revives.
RP log BDIF.
Oh no.
Actually, come on.
Not even Zoro?
Go to sleep, bro.
Zoro Snoro.
All right, Steven, do you want to say anything more about Kata?
No, I don't want to talk about Kata.
All right, Jeff, any last words?
I hate Kata.
All right.
Same.
All right, peace, guys.
All right, shout out Barrier Crew. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Peace.
Peace.